there is a number that follows Sam Altman everywhere, and almost everyone gets it wrong. He runs what may soon become the most valuable company ever built, a company that at the start of 2026 was valued somewhere between $700 and $850 billion, and yet the salary he draws from it is around $76,000 a year, roughly what the company spends to cover his health insurance. He owns no shares in it. If OpenAI became worth $10 trillion tomorrow, not a single cent of that would flow into his personal accounts. If wealth in the modern world came from owning the thing you build, the man sitting at the center of the artificial intelligence boom would have almost nothing to show for it. And still he is a billionaire, worth somewhere between $3 and $6 billion depending on who is counting. That fortune is real, but it was assembled almost entirely from somewhere else, a scattered collection of bets placed on other people's companies, on payments and nuclear reactors and life extension labs. Most of them made before OpenAI mattered at all, which raises a stranger question than how much he is worth. Why would the most powerful person in the most important company of the decade deliberately arrange to own none of it? The easy answer is idealism, that refusing equity keeps him loyal to a mission rather than a payout. But that answer explains a press release, not a strategy, and it falls apart the moment his ownership was actually tested. In November of 2023, the board of OpenAI did the one thing a board is legally permitted to do. They fired him. On a Friday afternoon, he joined a video call and was told he was no longer chief executive, and the company announced it to the world. By every rule written on paper, it was finished. The people who legally controlled the company had exercised exactly the control they were entitled to. It lasted 5 days. Within those 5 days, more than 700 of OpenAI's roughly 770 employees signed a letter threatening to walk out and follow him to Microsoft, which had already offered to build him a new division and absorb anyone who came with him. The board that held all the legal authority discovered it held almost none of the actual power. And by the end of the week, it was the board that was gone, not Altman. He walked back in, and nearly everyone who had voted against him left instead. This is the detail that unlocks everything else. The board owned the right to fire him, and that right turned out to be worthless because the thing that made Altman indispensable was never written into the ownership structure in the first place. His power came from the web of people and companies who had decided their futures ran through him. And a web like that cannot be handed to someone else by a vote. Ownership is a claim on a thing. What Altman had was position, and in a system built on dependence, position is the stronger of the two. Once you see that, his scattered investments stop looking scattered. On the surface, they read like the hobbies of a man with too much money. A nuclear fusion startup, a company building miniature fission reactors, a firm trying to extend the human lifespan, another one scanning people's eyeballs to prove they are human. But look at what an artificial intelligence economy actually consumes, and the pattern sharpens into something deliberate. These systems run on staggering amounts of electricity. So he holds one of his largest personal stakes in Helion, a fusion company promising power by 2028, and backed Oklo, a fission company he took public himself. They run on money moving across the internet, so he was early into Stripe, which now processes payments for much of the web, including OpenAI itself. And in a world where his own technology is about to make it nearly impossible to tell a human from a machine, he co-founded the company selling the antidote, an eyeball scan that certifies you are a real person. He is not diversifying. He is doing the precise opposite of diversifying. He is concentrating over and over on the foundational layers that everything else will eventually be forced to depend on: energy, money, identity, biology, and intelligence itself. He gravitates, almost mechanically, toward the floors of the building rather than the rooms, because whoever owns the floor collects rent from every room above it. The AI boom needs these inputs the way a body needs blood, and Altman has spent a decade quietly buying positions at each artery, which is where the ordinary logic of business breaks down completely, because a machine this large should, by any traditional measure, be printing money. It is doing the reverse. In 2025, OpenAI generated around $13 billion in revenue, and lost far more than that, an operating loss north of $20 billion and a net loss reported near $38 billion. Even as revenue climbed toward a $25 billion annual pace by the middle of 2026, the losses did not shrink, they widened. because each new user costs more to serve than they pay. A company valued near $1 trillion is burning cash faster the more of its product it sells. A business that loses more money the more it grows should not be worth almost $1 trillion unless the thing being valued is not the business at all, but the future the business promises it will one day reach. And this is the real engine underneath everything Altman has assembled, not a product, but a belief. And a machine for turning that belief into money that exists right now. The way the money actually moves makes it visible. In 2025, OpenAI committed to spending well over $1 trillion on computing power, hundreds of billions to Oracle for cloud infrastructure, tens of billions more to Microsoft and Amazon. Enormous chip orders from AMD and Broadcom. It does not have $1 trillion. What it has instead is Nvidia, the chip maker at the very center of the boom, agreeing to invest up to $100 billion into OpenAI, money that OpenAI then turns around and uses to buy Nvidia's chips. The supplier funds the customer so the customer can buy from the supplier. When deals like this are announced, the stock of nearly every company in the loop jumps, sometimes adding tens of billions in market value in a single day, which makes each of them wealthier on paper, which in turn lets them commit to even more. Nothing in that arrangement is fraudulent, but nothing in it is quite solid either. It is a circle of promises, each one borrowing its credibility from the next, and the entire structure holds together for exactly as long as everyone keeps believing the future will arrive to pay for it. Altman's real achievement was never a profitable company. It was building the belief that keeps the circle spinning, and then positioning himself at the single point through which all of it has to flow. Which finally answers the question we started with. Why a man would engineer himself to own nothing at the center of everything? Because he understood something the rest of the economy is still catching up to. In the older world, wealth and power both came from ownership. You built a company, you held its shares, the shares made you rich, and your title gave you control. Altman inverted every part of that. He took no shares and became a billionaire elsewhere. He held no controlling stake and survived the one serious attempt to remove him. He runs a company that loses billions a year and sits at the heart of the largest gathering of capital in history. Ownership makes you the target of a boardroom vote and ties your fortune to one company's balance sheet. Position makes you the thing everyone else is betting on, and a bet is far harder to fire than an employee. The number that follows. Sam Altman was always the wrong thing to measure. His real holdings were never counted in dollars or shares. What he accumulated was control over the flows of capital, of computing power, of the foundational resources the future will run on, and above all, control over the belief that the future is coming at all. We keep asking what Sam Altman owns, and the honest answer is almost nothing, and it has never mattered less. In the economy he is building, the person who owns the future turns out to be worth far less than the person everyone quietly agrees to root it through. And that is the lesson hiding inside a man with no equity and a salary too small to mention. The modern economy has stopped rewarding those who own the most. It rewards those who have made themselves impossible to go around.